Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of my interview series. Today we are talking with a fabulous music educator, Taylor Estep. Um, Taylor, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hi, I'm Taylor Estep. I'm the band director at Terracotta Middle School in Lake Elsinore, California, grades 6 through 8 band. I also teach fifth grade band at all of my elementary feeders in the district, and this is my third year of teaching.
Wow, nice. Yeah, my middle school director did basically the same thing, where he was doing seventh and eighth of the junior high and teaching five and six at elementaries.
It is the best thing you can ever do. On paper, it looks overwhelming, and you're just going, oh my God, I'm teaching all these kids. But
Mhm.
being your own feeder, you have so much more control. You get to see
Yeah,
the kids. If a kid's like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to do band, you can kind of, talk them into maybe at least giving it a try. Because,
yeah,
if they try, they're going to stay. You just got to get them in the door. So, no, it's great. It's a
yeah.
really good schedule.
That ability to seed them early
Oh, yeah,
is
definitely.
wonderful. Um, so let's talk about some more of your background. When did you decide that you were going to become a music major?
So actually, I didn't decide I was going to be a music major probably till almost the end of my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of going into that mindset of I need to pick something stable. I'm going to be a business major, or maybe I'll double major. I've always
Mm-hmm.
liked music. I've always
Mm-hmm.
done it a lot. High school honor bands, honor orchestras, that kind of stuff. And kind of near the end, I want to do, yes, I need to have a job. I want to be stable. I want to have that, but I want to do something I want to do that I'm going to enjoy doing. Just really couldn't see myself not doing it. So it kind of got to that point, and my parents were fully supportive. So I went in thinking, okay, I'm going to do performance and music ed. And then I pretty much did music ed, still with the mindset of performing. I mean, practice every day, all day,
Mm-hmm.
do everything you can. But yeah, I was kind of late in figuring out, yes, I want to be a band director. But yeah, best decision I ever made.
Good. And so you chose that at the same, so chose to be a teacher at the same time as
Yeah,
being okay.
yeah, it wasn't so much like, some people, they want to be a performer, but they have that in their back pocket. They're going to be a
Mm-hmm.
teacher. Or I want to be a teacher. Mine was more, I want to be a teacher. I want to keep performing, local orchestras, community, whatever. But yeah, I really enjoyed teaching. I had a lot of really great teachers that changed my life. So, I get joy out of that too,
Yeah.
being part of the process, and it feels like you've never left band yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all go, I've been in band for over 10, 15, however many years it's been, since we all started.
Yeah. That's definitely some of the aspects that I enjoy about it. Is that
Oh yeah.
you're just there all the time, and you get to
All
be.
the time. We have not left band ever. So
Okay. So let's talk about being a percussionist, like a percussion major,
yay.
because that's a unique perspective that I think most other non-percussion band teachers
Yeah.
don't have. So what? Just give us kind of a summary of what it's like, and we'll
Yeah.
go from there.
So yeah, it's very different. If you're a flute player and you go to college on flute performance, you're still just going to play flute. It's the same as it's kind of been, but on another level.
Mm-hmm.
Something a lot of people don't think about is, yeah, I'm a percussionist, but maybe in high school you were in pit or you were in drumline. So it's like, oh, I only play mallets. I only play this. I only play mallets. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I played piano first. But my senior year started getting into the other stuff, really focusing on snare drum, got a private teacher focusing on timpani. And then when you're in college, it's everything all the time. If you want to make it as a performer, you got to do everything. And especially if you're going to be a teacher, you better do everything. So yeah, lessons are snare drum, timpani, marimba, 2 mallet, 4 mallet, crash cymbals, tambourine, some of the things that I think a lot of us, either band directors or percussionists, think, oh, I don't need to focus on that. Yeah, you do. The triangle is going to sound much different. What you use to strike the triangle, the angle you play your cymbals at, what kind of cymbal to use, your grip. You know, it's so much more than just hitting it.
Yeah.
It's stuff that goes behind what's your intent to hit it, how are you going to strike the instrument, how do you pull the sound out of the instrument. So yeah, percussion's a definitely different kind of thing going into in college. So if you can get somehow in with a private instructor, it's the best thing you can do, someone that has orchestral percussion experience. It's so different than marching. It's so different than, you know, just playing drum set or just staying in your lane. So yeah, if you can find somebody, great.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard that advice from almost everyone that I've talked to for every instrument is that you should get a private instructor before you try to be a music major.
Oh yeah, I only was able to find a percussion instructor my senior year. It is hard to find a percussion instructor that's not just a drum set player or just, you know, in one, you know, narrow part of percussion. So, you know, hindsight's 2020. I wish I could have found my teacher in high school sooner, so I could have been more prepared, you know. But if you do become a percussionist, you need to start giving private lessons. You do, no, really. I mean, it beats flipping burgers. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but you make good money. You're doing what you enjoy doing, and you're fixing a problem. You know, there aren't enough of us out there teaching concert percussion, and it really changes your band program when the kids in the back of the room actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's hard for me just to speak to my own experience. I'm coming from some percussion background, but to teach kids that have like 0 to no experience and they don't have access to a teacher, I can only work so much, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's only so much you can do. And then, I mean, every band director wonders why your percussion gets in trouble all the time or whatever. And, you know, Ray Llewellyn from, you know, you had Ray. He was one of our professors at Fullerton. He teaches in Yorba Linda. You know, he says it all the time. Who's in the back of the room? They get the least amount of attention from this. Who's at the bottom of the score? They get the least amount of musical attention, and more than any other instrument, they have the most times where they rest in a piece. They're not playing. You know, if there were a way to put something in a drummer's mouth, they're not going to talk, but they're going to talk because they can while they're playing their instrument. So it's definitely a struggle. Like, there's no cure-all. Even as a drummer, my drummers drive me crazy.
Yeah. Have you, in like picking lit for your concerts, have you ever like accidentally picked something where like there's no percussion?
No. Okay. My first year, I picked a couple pieces because we had to do that Disneyland. We got to play 30 minutes of music. So I picked a bunch of pieces, stuff we could put together easy. And yeah, some of them had like maybe 3 or 4 percussion parts. So then you either hear it from the kid, you know, I want to play, why don't I get to play? Or you hear it from the parent, why isn't little Johnny, you know, play? That's the luxury of middle school. You know, we got to make sure all the kids are actively participating. Otherwise, you know, you'll probably hear it from someone. But unfortunately, that's part of being a percussionist too, is that's, you know, the way percussion functions. We can't all play all the time because the balance doesn't work. But yeah, I've since learned from that. Before all this COVID shutdown stuff, we were able to go to pre-festival. I think I did Pioneer Songs by Larry Dane, which only had like 4 or 5 percussion parts. And then Risk Everything for a Dream has about the same. But we did Terracotta Warriors by Scott Watson, which took 10 percussion. So then you can kind of balance it out. You know, if you pick something that's a little percussion light, pick something that's percussion heavy, and maybe go, hey, while we're working on this, I need you to go practice X part from this piece on a pad or on a mallet instrument with practice mallets or on the backs of the mallets, or go outside, or keep them busy. They'll be better behaved for you if you just keep them busy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've had to worry about. What did I choose this year? I did Frank Kelly's Amazing Grace.
Oh man.
And what was the second one that I picked? Oh, I can't even remember right now. But like, I think they both have pretty sparse percussion stuff, and I'm like, even though I have a small percussion section, like with them, it's like I don't have what's the word? I don't have enough for them to do.
Yeah, no,
So they're just sitting.
that's the hard thing, and we get, there's merit in both thoughts. We learn in college, it's part of percussion that they have to sit, they have to wait, but then look at it from the kids' perspective. They didn't sign up for band to wait, and it's not their fault. So I have no problem putting a kid on marimba with soft mallets to play the flute part. If you're a good band director and you have a good ear, you can separate the two. Know that sound's not going to be there for festival, but at least the kid has something to do. And if you have a good mallet player, it could be like, hey, can you model playing that for us? Your marimba might not be perfectly in tune. Usually they're sharp. That way the sound cuts through your ensemble. Same with xylophone. But it'll help, keeps them busy, gives them something to do, or, have your less experienced mallet players play a low brass part at the bottom end of the room. Have them play the tuba part, or the bass clarinet part. At least they're having fun, at the end of it. And I think everything going on right now kind of puts it in perspective. We got to make sure they're having fun.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been, I'm not too wrapped up in superiors every year.
Yeah.
Because that's silly.
It's hard. We want superior, but at what cost,
Right. As long as they're working hard and doing the best they can, I'm not really concerned about the ratings.
and if you ride it too hard, you can get superior, and that's great. And then the next year you're gonna have no one in your program,
right?
Because they're all gonna quit. Especially middle school is so tough. High school has its own set of challenges. Was that your cat?
Yeah, he just knocked everything over.
Oh my God. But yeah, with middle school, we're trying to teach them to be competitive, teach them to, work for their very best, but at the same time, you don't want to go too hard because they're still developing and they could be sensitive to what you're saying. So it's a tough balance. We're teaching music, but we're also teaching them, hopefully, to go up to the high school level and be ready for higher expectations, more competitive nature, at least with themselves. If others, if that's your style, great. But yeah, it's an interesting age group to work with. It's a fun age group for sure. But yeah, it's a lot of change, a lot of things we have to focus on with the kids.
Cool. I just came up with a question. For the auditioning process for percussion, are you coming out of high school, you're expected to be able to read classical snare and marimba and everything? Okay.
That's the hard part, is that, I think part of that has to come from band directors. You have to tell your kids what's expected of them. Again, I was fortunate. I had a private teacher, so she picked all my rep for me. She's a fantastic band. She's assistant director at Diamond Bar High School.
Okay.
So she knew exactly what to do. Here's your snare solo, 4 mallet, 2 mallet. And then we prepared, what if they want me to show crash cymbal technique or something else? So we kind of prepped on that. But I've had private students, come up to me just for, let's do a couple lessons before their audition. So you're not doing a lot. As a teacher, you're just trying to clean it up, help them do their very best, but they're coming in with, I'm going to play part of my field show on snare drum, or some of my book from the front ensemble. It's like, that's not what they're looking for. And it's not red flags if they see a bunch of marching technique, but it's something they're going to go, well, that's something that needs to be fixed, because again, it is completely different. So if you're auditioning for college music, my recommendation, if you haven't studied privately, you're going to look at Mitchell Peters snare studies, intermediate level or advanced, depending on where you're at in your snare drum, how good are your buzz rolls, flams. Don't do double stroke, open stroke rolls. Concert, please do buzz rolls. Timpani, you could play out of Mitchell Peters, Fundamental Method for Timpani, or Saul Goodman etudes. Mallets, Macmillan's masterpieces for marimba have all, flute sonatas, violin sonatas. You could play a 2 mallet piece out of that. And if you're gonna do 4 mallet, depending on your level. You know, everyone's tired of hearing a piece called Yellow After the Rain. Everybody hears it, but it's a good piece. Rain Dance by Alice Gomez. There's a lot of really good pieces and resources. So even if you know a band director that plays percussion, or ask your band director, hey, do you know any percussion band directors that can help me pick music? Just reach out. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. Thank you for giving those specific answers for some of my students if they're ever interested in that, and for me to look back on. I think that's good. Let's see, expectations as far as instrument influency. Okay, so if you could tell yourself one thing, your first year.
Only one?
Yeah. Well, let's start with one.
Yeah. Tell myself to make my first year easier, or
if I guess if you like put yourself in first year mode, and like what's one thing that you really needed help with or something that third year you can tell you?
You know, the biggest thing I would say to someone who's a first year teacher, don't do it by yourself. You know, reach out for help. You know, I think that's one thing I could have done better in my first year with my first job, was just reach out to the other band directors in the area, reach out to the teachers, you know, your core subject teachers a little bit more. Number one, it shows you're a team player, you're working with them. And number two, you'll learn, you know, the little things here and there that are unique about your school, your community, or where you worked. So maybe you navigate some landmines better, planning better, and slow down. Your first year doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be the 1 year you make your program exactly what you want it to be. Take your time, because you're going to have induction your first year too. Your first 2 years, I know. I'm so glad we're on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And then induction is basically, for those of you that are watching, your first 2 years that you're teaching, you're not done with school. You have to do another 2 years, and every district's different. With mine, I had to meet with a mentor once a week, and it was submitting lesson plans and data just to see how my kids were progressing. And it, you know, it's good for your teaching, you know, definitely interesting to reflect, because I did it kind of comparing and contrasting my orchestra versus my band, you know, which methods were working, which wasn't, and kind of seeing the difference between those. But you don't have a spare moment between all that. So slow down your first 2 years, because once that's done, you'll have the time and the energy to get everything done you want to get done. So yeah, reach out for help. Make friends on your campus, especially those that are in subjects that maybe you have to pull kids out of class for a field trip. It's good to be friends with those teachers first before you start asking for favors.
Yeah, that's something I definitely agree with. First year, you gotta like become part of the community and reach out to these teachers, and a lot of them are willing to help, and they're like more than happy to make the music program better, you know.
Exactly, you know. And if you're somewhere where the music program's already established, it's different, you know, opposed to somewhere where maybe you're starting a program from scratch, or maybe you're making a lot of changes to that program. So read the room, talk to people, and you see what way is going to work best to get what you want done. You know, given, again, your area, teachers, you know, community, parents, you know, every area is different.
Yeah. Is Terracotta your first school?
No, so my first job, you know, and again, we're all looking, it's like you take your first job where you can get it. My first job, I taught at El Roble Intermediate School in Claremont.
Okay.
It was a great place to work, great first job. I taught 7th and 8th grade band and orchestra. My first year I taught elementary as well, but the second year my numbers grew, so I was just full-time at the middle school, and they had the other elementary teachers fill in what I was doing. So I was there for 2 years. It was really great, but for those of you who know Southern California, Corona and Claremont are not very close together. So I stayed my 2 years. I finished my BITSA because that was important to me. You don't want to move in the middle because then you're worried about things transferring and starting over and going through a new program. So I finished that out. And then I took this job because it's closer to home. The pay works a lot better for me. I'll say it that way. And then I actually used to work in that district. I was the drumline coach at the high school, not too far down the way. So, and 6, 7, 8 is a world of difference versus 7, 8. Because 6, 8, both of my programs had marching band, and I like teaching middle school marching. But 6, 7, 8, you get 2 years just to focus on how to play your instrument, fundamentals. It's just you get to keep the kids longer. It's kind of that thing all middle school teachers envy high school teachers because they go, you get to keep them for so long. You get to do so much and really see them progress. 6, 7, 8 is the best of both worlds. I get middle school, but I get to keep them another year. So this is my first year. I'm finishing my first year at this school in Lake Elsinore, but it's my 3rd year teaching.
Okay, cool. Let's see, what else? What was I gonna say? So you have marching programs at both your schools.
Mm-hmm.
What do you typically do with that? Like why? I guess is my question.
We do competitive marching in both schools. SCSBOA, competitive parades. We usually do 2 or 3 parades a year.
Okay.
I do not do it on my own.
Okay.
Some guys do that, some guys don't. I teach all the music. I teach all the marching. I don't bring in a marching tech for parade because I grew up in a parade program. Did the Rose Parade, did that kind of stuff. So I feel really comfortable doing that. I bring in a coach to teach drum major, which is great. So we fundraise through the boosters, and then after auditions, we provide a lesson scholarship for that 2 drum majors to take lessons from summer all the way through the end of the season. So every week they're getting a private lesson. It's great. I have a really good drum major coach from Glendora High School. He's the real deal. And then we have a color guard coach as well. So just the 3 of us, but so Monday through Friday, class as usual, music during the day. We might go outside and march during class too. I'm fortunate there's a really large stretch of road right outside my classroom. So we can at least block it up, practice spacing, do little things, but try to keep music during class. And then we do 2 practices after school a week, August through the first week of November. That way, get those feet in line, get them in step. Yeah. It's a lot harder than it looks. It's not just walking straight. That's kind of what we do. And then once that's done, it's full concert the rest of the year, which is the best part of the year. I love marching, but it's good for the kids because I grew up in a concert-only middle school, which I think is great educationally. It makes more sense. Why are we fixing feet? We should be fixing, bad playing.
Yeah.
But for the kids, it breaks up the year. So they're doing marching the first half, and by the time they're getting tired of marching, then concert starts. And then by the time they're getting tired of concert, now they're looking forward to marching starting again. But I only march the 8th graders. I march advanced band. So 6 and 7 doesn't march unless they want to be like a back flag or something. There's pros and cons of it. I enjoy it. You might want to ask me again in 10 years. But I enjoy doing it right now. We did the same thing in my old school. And community parades too. My old school, we did 3 or 4 community parades a year. My new school, we only do about 2, so that's much easier. It's good for community. Kids have fun, and parents buy in big time. Yeah. They think it's cool because their kids being competitive, and for some of these kids, band is their sport. Band is their one place they can go, look, I got sweepstakes, I'm competitive. My campus is really supportive of it. The band director before me, Jim Boyer, he was there 27 years. Program from the ground up. So I walked in already with this. We know the band, we respect the band. We're going to support you. It's a really great experience. So whether you have a marching band or not, you know, that's your decision, but there's definite benefits of having it. So don't let people scare you away from doing it. If you want to do that, you know, give it your best shot. Because my old school, we had marching. They had marching before, but it was just community based. They didn't even have uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought uniforms my first year because we found a company online that sells used uniforms. And then we got Letterman patches to cover up the name of the old school. And I asked another school, hey, can we have your old Shakos and plumes? So we made it work. You know, you can make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So the school you're currently at was an established program.
Correct.
The old school,
Yeah,
did you introduce them to marching, or was that something they were doing?
So they, yes and no. They had marching.
Okay.
They did community parades like for Halloween time or for LA County Fair. They did competitive parade, I think like 10 or 11 years before I got there.
Okay.
And then they stopped doing it. I think because the program grew so much, because they had uniforms tucked away in the back, but they didn't have enough. So I think when they overgrew, they stopped because uniforms are so expensive. So then when I came in, I wanted to do it. We made it work, you know. It all worked out that we found 150 uniforms for like $3,000. You know, 150 uniforms should cost like $50,000.
Right.
So we made it work. We introduced, you know, parade style marching, you know, along the SCSBOA guidelines, and there was already a color guard instructor in place, because even though they didn't have competitive marching, they did winter guard. So I had an amazing color guard instructor already there when I got there. And then we just got a drum major coach. And actually he followed me from my last job to this job. So I've been able to keep, you know, similar staffing, you know, despite moving. So it's been good. You can make it happen.
Yeah, that's great. My experience is basically starting from scratch for all that kind of stuff.
I remember you said that. Yeah, you were kind of starting a whole brand new program from the ground up.
So they had a program in the sense that there were students and there were instruments.
And there was a room.
And there's a room, and there's uniforms. So there's like, you know, all the artifacts are there. But my first year, it was just like, you know, most of these kids don't even know how to read. So it's been like work up till this point just to get them like festival ready. And to kind of like get them into doing more community parades and stuff like that. And it's so hard to start in a lot of ways, because you don't have, when the school doesn't have any connections to like color guard or drum line, so you don't have coaches. You don't have like any of these infrastructure things in place. And so that's like where I'm coming from. So like one day I aspire to be like
No, that's tough. And you know, kudos to you high school guys, because in a lot of ways it's so much harder for you guys. You know, we get the kids so much younger. You know, there's less things to change, you know, with your program walking in with almost nothing set up, or a lot of things you have to pick your priorities, you know, and you picked the right thing, you know. There's no point of marching if the kids can't read, you know. We're music teachers, not marching teachers. So pick your battles, you know. How did you feel about going in? Now I'm interviewing you. Going into a program that kind of, did you feel like it was kind of a blank slate that you could make anything you want, or did you feel like it was kind of, you had to kind of stick with what they had been doing prior and maybe change it slowly over time?
I kind of felt like it was a blank slate, at least going into it. That's how I felt. They weren't doing too much to begin with, but there were some, like, when I walked in, there were some expectations of like events that we were supposed to play at, and I kind of canceled everything my first year because like I heard them play. You know, I had to spend like 2 months, and if you're one of my students who was here my first year, you know what's up. So I spent like 2 months teaching them how to play like Land of a Thousand Dances.
Okay.
Right? Because I was like, it's still in the fall. We're gonna learn like at least a pep tune. So we went and played like at our rally, but that was it. We learned like Land of a Thousand Dances and like one other song. And that was just to like get them into the right mode. But then, like, you know, you have people asking you to do like the Christmas parade, and you're just like, that's not happening. Not this year.
That's the hardest thing, because you're going, this is what I'm doing, but how do you say no?
Right.
You know, it's so tough, especially if you're in a small community where everyone knows everybody or everybody talks. So you gotta, and that's another, that goes back to, you know, talking to people in the community and other teachers and your admin to go, what do you think about, you know, this? You know, this year we didn't do our Winterfest parade at my school, partially because it was supposed to rain that day. And I went, I can't risk our uniforms. But I still talk to my admin first, like, hey, what do you think about this? How should we tell parents? How should we notify, you know, stakeholders or whoever that, hey, we're not coming to the Winterfest parade this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to be better on the communication side about it.
We all do. We all do.
But definitely, like, I'd say if you're coming into a new program, or just like if you're coming into a program, you have to be ready to cancel a couple things. And like, if they don't meet your expectations, then don't. Don't send them.
And you putting your foot down and kind of saying, no, we're not doing this, probably helped solidify, I'm your band director now. It's not about whoever was here before me. You know, this is my program. This is what we're doing, you know, and it might be tough for a little bit, but in the long run, it'll be better for you, you know, because you made the decision. They're not living in the past.
Right. So let's highlight a couple of other differences between high school and middle school. We've kind of danced around it a little bit. So like, let's start with like the types of kids that you get. Because I do think it's very different, and we had to do two different schools during our student teaching. So like having a chance to experience middle school and high school, I can definitely see like why you would like a middle school level kid.
You know, and we all have personalities that mesh well with certain age groups. I kind of always saw myself teaching middle school. You know, I coached middle school percussion ensemble all through college. So, you know, if you're going to be a middle school teacher, you have to laugh at fart jokes. You have to, you have to be funny. You have to be kind of, you can relate with the kids. You can be friendly, not their friend, but be friendly. You know, it's definitely different. You know, you got to be really patient. If you snap at a kid in middle school, it's a lot different than snapping at a kid in high school. So learning fluent sarcasm or a sense of humor is suggested, because the kids still have to know that I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at what you're doing. It's not personal, it's what's going on in the situation. I think probably the biggest difference between high school kids and middle school band kids, personality-wise, is middle school is kind of the testing ground for band. You know, if a kid does it in elementary school and they continue to middle school, that's a level of commitment. But we also have beginning band kids that never took it. So there might be a kid that took band with no, you know, preconceived notion of what it is. Thinking it's like rock band or something. So their personality might clash with you. It might clash with, you know, your expectations. There's kids that are there, maybe they don't want to their aspiration is not to be proficient at their instrument. It's to be with their friends. It's to socialize. Maybe they appreciate music. You know, they never, you know, want to put in the effort or the desire to be, you know, your level of musician, but they want to be there. So it's kind of navigating that. You know, I think that's probably the hardest thing with middle school is adjusting to all the personalities in the classroom and making sure as a teacher, you're always adjusting because you got to give every kid what they need.
Yeah.
And sometimes giving the majority of the class one thing, you're leaving out X% of your population. Because to me, my biggest goal, yes, we want to be superior. I have benchmarks and standards, and I want them to know certain things before high school. And, you know, the high school director I feed into, we meet a lot and we talk about, you know, where do we want to see our programs in 10 years? But my biggest thing is I want to see them continue. I want to see as many elementary kids continue to middle school, and I want to see as many middle school kids at least get into high school. Because if they start it, they will probably finish it. But there's all those kids that, you know, I quit band when I was in elementary school. And I know. I love using this story with my kids because they'll go, wait, what? Oh my God. I quit band in 6th grade before middle school. You know, it wasn't really my thing, or I don't know. I think I had a notion that it would move faster or whatever, because I've been playing piano, and then I went, okay, I'll play percussion. I was playing bells, but I didn't do it. And in 7th grade, I did ASB. And then at the end of 7th grade, you know, you have to turn in your application and your essay for ASB, and I didn't get in. And I went, oh my God, like it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I had some friends in band. They got me into band, and it was the best thing that ever happened, because that's when I made real friends. You know, middle school's weird because you have all these friends, but are they really your friends, or are they just acquaintances? So got into band that way, and you know, it went from there. So I try to use that with my kids to go, you got to show up, you got to at least start it, because you got to see what it's really like. They really think you're going to enjoy it, and if you don't, you know, talk to your teacher. You know, they can change your schedule later, or they can, you know, see what they can do to keep you. But yeah, number one thing is kids got to get in the door. They got to stay. And find a way for every personality to fit within your program. But if they don't, that's okay too. I tried to save you know, I took it personally every time a kid would go, you know, I don't think I'm going to do band next year, or I don't think I'm going to do band at the high school. And you know, you can't help but take it a little personally. But that was something I wish I could go back and tell my first year self too. Sometimes you just got to let them go, you know. Sometimes you gotta let them go. You know, they'll find another elective that's, you know, their place where they belong, and you can get back to what you're doing, and you have, you know, another 100-something kids that need you too.
Yeah, definitely. I have a beginning band at the high school level, so I kind of have a microcosm of that. Only they're, you know, in 9th grade most of the time, and so they're not willing to do anything.
All of this is a little bit more formed, not much, but a little bit more.
Yeah, well, this is formed, but somewhere in that is the what's the word? Fear of embarrassment center.
Oh, there we go.
And so they're like not willing to put in their best effort. Some of them. There are the kids that are like, I didn't get a chance to sign up for band, and this is my chance to be in it. And those kids are like the kids that you like. And then you have kids that are like, I didn't sign up for any other elective, and my counselors put me here. And those are kids that I have fights with.
That's really tough. Yeah, and people, you know, sometimes people think, oh, well, it's, you know, it's fine, it's band, you know, you can make anybody play anything, you know, but not every kid is right for every instrument.
Yeah.
Not every kid's right for band, you know, it's a lot harder than people think, you know, and do you have it too in your beginning band where you think, they're afraid to be embarrassed about their playing, so either they play super quiet with no air support, which then it sounds terrible, or they just won't play for you. It's like if you do like, hey, can you play number 37 for me from the book? And they just sit there.
Yeah, most of the time for me, it's they won't play.
Oh, God. That would drive me up a wall. Oh
Yeah.
my God, no. And we've had that in middle school, and I'll just sit there on my podium and go, we're going to wait until you play it, you know? And of course you have that, you can always come up and talk to me if, you know, if your anxiety is really strong where you don't feel comfortable playing.
Yeah.
But then I think there's also an element of what we do. We need to teach them that this is the class for you to overcome, at least a part of that. You know, you have to perform, and, you know, I'm pretty tough on my kids starting in 6th grade. I don't baby them. I don't coddle them, because I want the high school director to go, hey, play that for me. And they don't even think about it. They just do it, you know. And the only way to get over that is to do it in a safe, controlled environment. And especially if you're playing out of the method book. I mean, play hot cross buns for me by yourself, go, you know.
Yeah.
I do it with my 5th graders, and they actually think it's fun. Like, I go, who can play hot cross buns for me? You know, just make it a game. Don't make it scary.
Yeah, and well, like that enthusiasm, that like elementary school enthusiasm from like fifth and sixth grade, where they're just like, I want to do things, and I want to impress you, Mr. Estep.
Yeah.
Like
it's great.
That is great. In 9th grade, they don't care.
It's all gone. It is all gone in high school.
So, like, those kind of fun games, like, except for, I can't be like, oh, does anyone want to, like, come play number 46 for me? Like,
it's really hard. The older they get, the cooler they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
The harder it is to, you know, I don't want to say relate, but kind of, motivate them to get out of their comfort zone. So, you know, going back, I think if you started at a young age, middle school teachers, elementary teachers, you just expect a little bit more. You know, it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. You know, I have people that we all worry about losing kids in elementary school. You know, they don't come up to the middle school because, oh, the middle school teacher's mean, or the elementary school teacher's mean, or this was that. I know very few kids that quit band, but they're good at their instrument. If they're proficient, they will continue. You know, my master teacher, Rita Watson at Bernardo Yorba Middle in Yorba Linda, you know, that was the best thing. She would talk about with the kids that, yes, field trips are fun. The stuff we do is fun, but the most fun part of band is being successful and hearing yourself perform and going to competition and doing your best. And, you know, it's never too young to start that. So by the time they get to high school, they're not sitting there going, I'm not going to play this, Mr. Mudd.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think to the point, like, I have to be aware of that. So I have to treat my beginning band kids
differently,
like way different than I would if they were in 6th grade. I would be a different teacher.
No, that's the hard thing, because this year is my first year at this school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm new to everybody, but your older kids, you're more new to them than the younger ones, because the younger ones, you know, they haven't had that teacher for as long. Because, since I teach 5 through 8, my kids have me for 4 years, which is awesome. But my 8th graders, you know, there was a little resistance. My 6th graders, it was great from like day one. We just got going, and then some of my 8th graders, well, you're a lot nicer to the 6th graders than you are to us. I go, well, they're beginning band. You have to treat them. It's a little different. I wouldn't expect them to be able to play grade 2.5 rep in 6th grade. So therefore, you think I'm nicer to them. No, it's just your expectation is higher because you're in advanced band. You're in wind ensemble. But then as the year goes on, then it's different. Once you start really challenging the younger ones, then they go, oh, well, you're nicer to the advanced band kids. It's like, no, they've just been playing longer. It's easier for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a toss-up.
Yeah. Good cop, bad cop, all the time.
Yep. And like developing, when you have to build those communities, like within the school, like with just like trying to get people to be like friends with each other in the advanced band. Like when I got in, it's you gotta like, you know, put things in place so that the kids like feel comfortable with one another, or else they won't feel comfortable playing.
Exactly. If they're a shy group, you're not going to get anything out of them. And that's normal, I think, for every new teacher in the beginning. You're going to get frustrated. because you're brand new to them, so that they're still adjusting to you, or maybe they're playing differently than you would want them to because how their old teacher taught them. You just got to be patient, and hopefully the teacher that was before you is willing to help with that transition. My first job, the first day I met them was band camp, which was definitely tough. This one, the band director leaving invited me in. I met the kids during class. I came to the end of the year concert. I met the boosters. The principal brought me in. So if you're and you can ask like, hey, is there any way I can, meet the kids ahead of time? That'll make things so much smoother.
Yeah.
Because then they see you and the teacher before you as a team. It's not, oh, I miss our old teacher, or our old teacher was better. No, the old teacher's supporting you. That'll go a long way. It'll go a really long way. And then you can always say that if there's an issue, to go, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so did it like this. I don't understand what the issue is. We're doing the same thing, or we're building upon that. Or, the band director before me actually, and it was a surprise to all of us, he showed up at one of our parade competitions just to say hi and congratulate the kids. I think a lot of people are afraid when the old teacher sticks around, and there probably is a level of them sticking around too much. But there's benefits of it too. So try to get that support early on, so the kids see you as, make a friend first. You're here to teach them music and continue them having fun. You're not the bad guy. You're not taking anything away. It's all in how you present it, from the very beginning.
Hard agree, definitely. Let's see. I'm going to give you a classroom management scenario.
No!
I thought this would be fun.
Get out of my class. Transfer schools.
So let's say this is your 8th grade advanced band.
Okay.
Okay.
That was my trouble class this year. So
okay.
If any of my kids watch this, I love you all. But we had our issues. We're good though.
So let's say you have a kid, and he's been with you for, I guess since the beginning. Let's say since.
Okay. It's like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. But consistently, he's just every single time that he thinks is appropriate to crack a joke is the worst possible time and the most inappropriate kind of joke. And your class, the kids are mad at him because he's interrupting classroom. Like, we're trying to play some music, and this kid's just popping jokes that no one appreciates. What do you do with this kid?
Okay, I had this exact kid this year. And
we all got one.
I had this exact kid this year. Okay. And before I tell you the story, at the end of the year, he became my best kid. I mean, one of my very best kids. I won't say his name. If he's watching, he knows who he is. I'm going to say his instrument. My bari sax player. Amazing player. He had such a warm, rich tone. It was so good. And when he played, he was great. But whenever we'd stop playing, he'd talk to someone, he'd crack a joke. We actually had issues where he would get up out of his seat and walk around. It's like, what are you doing? Sit down. And we tried everything. I mean, I did emails home, lunch detentions. I had him come in during break time. It's like, no, you're going to come in and dust and clean trophies around the room. And nothing was working. It almost seemed like he enjoyed coming into the room and just hanging out, even if I made him work. Marching practices, we'd have stuff. And then, you have the teacher guilt because you have to raise your voice to be heard.
Right.
And you feel like you're yelling at the kid, or it's just a no-win situation. So finally, we got to, I called mom, I called dad, sent emails. I talked to the kid, and I got to know him enough to find out he never wanted to play bari sax. He wanted to be a drummer, which makes total sense with his personality. So I kind of use that as a bargaining chip. Like, hey, if you're really good for me for the rest of marching season, let's talk. I can switch you into percussion for concert, which I didn't want to do. I don't want to lose my great bari sax player. Luckily, I got another kid that played alto because I had too many altos to go, hey, I need you to learn bari. Because, and my kid that wanted to switch to percussion, he was going to be moving in December. So I went, okay, I got to get a new bari player anyways. Got another student to switch to bari. He was going to do percussion. He ended up staying the whole time, which I went, okay, well, you did what I asked you to do. Let's put you in percussion. But if there's an issue, I'm going to put you back into saxophone. That was pretty much the only thing that worked with him, was he really wanted to play drums. And then he comes up to me and goes, can I play mallets? Oh, okay. And he just started, he played Furlise or something. I can't remember. I went, okay, well, he can read by ear. And he went, do you have any music? I gave him music. He can read perfect and actually play mallet parts. I mean, some of our mallet stuff this year was really meaty. And he was great. Ever since he started playing percussion, he's a different kid. He's playing. He's in the back of the room, so if he happens to talk, it's not as disruptive as being in the second row or whatever, where you put your bari saxes. If he was playing, he was playing. If he wasn't playing, he was sitting down. I let my percussionist sit. That's another problem with, don't make your percussion stand the whole time.
That's silly.
Players. Make them sit in a chair, because if they sit on the floor, they'll be like me and they'll be doing their homework on the floor or have their phone out or doing something they're not supposed to. But sit in a chair. If he's in the back of the room, I can't hear him as much if he happens to talk. It is what it is. Or whisper. If he just needed to be kept busy. So I'd let him have a practice pad so he can practice rhythms, or flip your mallets over and hit with the wood part on the tip, on the key. So I can barely hear that. Learn to tune out noises that aren't, they're not the best things to hear, but you got to learn to tune it out at some point. Otherwise, you're never going to get anything done. A silent rehearsal is great, but in middle school, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. You take it where you can get it. So he was a great kid. Once I figured out why he was talking, it's because he was bored. Why was he acting out so much? He just needed something else to take his energy away, to occupy his time. And mallets, even though he was good, it was still a struggle. Saxophone parts, I could give him anything, and he'd sight read it. So for him, that worked. But then I've had the other kid, where it's the same issue and nothing works. You do everything. You talk to your admin, you talk to the other teachers to go, hey, are they doing this in your class? Because if they are, then points for you. If they're doing it in your class, then no points for you. You got to figure something out and go, what makes band different? And sometimes that's the kid that, maybe band's not the right place. And maybe you tell them with their parents present to go, this is what's happening. It's lessening the experience for every other kid. Maybe we need to explore alternate electives for next year. And sometimes that might, if they love band, that might be enough to shock them out of it, to go, if I don't change, I'm going to lose band.
Yeah.
So that was a good situation. Everybody's going to have that kid at one point or another. But usually it's a cry for attention. So in middle school, just talk to the kid. Sometimes being friendly with them, they feel like they owe you a favor, or, you're the only person that understands them. They might actually do better for you because you're showing that you're not just one of their teachers that's, calling roll, teaching a lesson and sending them off. So be patient, help them out, try to get to know them. You can figure out the problem. And if you can't, talk to everyone else on your school that has that student. Don't be afraid to call parents. You might be afraid that if you call mom and dad or email, they're going to, how dare you say my, precious little snowflake is trouble, but that's our job. And our job's not easy. And you got to pick your battles, but sometimes if in this situation, if one student's making your whole class disruptive, or that one student can cause all the other kids to start talking.
Yeah.
And then it's so out of hand that you're just ready to pull your hair out. You got to do something. You got to do something.
All right. Yeah, that was some real good advice. I definitely think that building that relationship with students, that's something I use a lot, is building a good relationship with them so that they
want to be better for you.
They want to be, they're motivated to do well because they they know you and they want you to be happy just like you want them to be happy.
Exactly.
Let's see. Okay, so you talked about this a little bit. What are like some of the things that you want a kid to know before they go into the high school level?
So I had my own set of things I really wanted my kids to know. But I talked to the high school director too to go, what do you want the kids to know? Everybody's different. You know, you can do it by national standards. You can do it just by goal-based. You know, do it by exactly what does your high school teacher want them to know? And then you can kind of use that to structure, you know, 6, 7, 8 or whatever. My biggest thing is literacy, literacy, literacy. It is so frustrating handing out a piece of music and having to spoon feed every part of it because rote teaching was the only instructional method used from the very beginning. You know, modeling is great, but the kids are just looking at your fingers. You know, modeling is great, writing stuff on the board, using the actual, you know, writing out the alphabet letters instead of notation can be valuable at times, but do both. So my biggest thing is I want the kids to be able to read, you know, from 6th grade. That's the very, you know, 5th grade, I think there's some merit in a lot of rote teaching because elementary, get them to play, get them to put air through the instrument, make sure they're having fun because if they're not having fun, they're not going to show up to middle school. But the second they're in that middle school classroom and you see them every day you're focusing on reading. You make them tell you what the note is. You change it around, you test them. Before the end of 8th grade, I'd like them to know concert scales, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, and G. So actually some people think that's not enough. Some people think that's too much. I'd like them to know all those scales. Those are the majority of keys we play in. And at least they know, I want them to know how to spell a scale using whole steps and half steps. So if I give you the starting pitch, you can figure it out from there. You know, maybe I put a piano image on your paper and you can, you know, whole, half, whole, half, or whatever. So I want them to be able to do that. Chromatic scale is a must. I teach the chromatic scale in 6th grade. We were just about to start that before school shut down. So I've been sending stuff home via Smart Music, and I've been getting some interesting submissions of what chromatic scales sound like, especially clarinets with all the side keys. But yeah, chromatic scale is a must. I'd like them to do it in 2 octaves by the end of 8th grade. Sight reading is a must. You got to be focusing on sight reading. And then for every scale and key, they should be able to do scale. They should be able to do broken chord exercises. They should be able to do arpeggios. They should be, if you have some interval exercise you're working on with your kids, whether it's do, re, do, mi, do, fa, or whatever, make sure they can do it in every key. It's good warm-up, it's good interval training. You know, your woodwind players, you know, it's focusing on those shifting hand positions. Your low brass, especially your trombones, it's intonation. You know, it's everything you do in a key. They should have multiple exercises, etudes, or skills they're doing in that key. I'd love for all my kids at the end of 8th grade to be really confident in 2.5, maybe low 3 grade repertoire. We did 2.5 at festival. That was a struggle, but had we continued for the rest of the year, I think we would have ended probably in a good spot. Really strong intonation, you know, skills. And what I mean by skills, maybe their intonation isn't, it's not perfect. They're never going to be perfect, but I want a kid to be able to go, I'm out of tune and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out my phone, I'm going to put tonal energy on, and I want them to tell me, how do I fix this? You know, my 6th graders, you know, flute players, you know, everyone does it a little different, but I want them to know, should I roll? Should I tuck in? Should I add maybe a few extra fingers on that C natural to get it in tune? And I want them to be able to hear it, at least go, I'm out of tune, I need to do something. Let me pull out my bag of tricks that I was taught. Clarinets and altos need to know alternate fingerings. And when to use the side key for C, so you're not going B, C, B, C, B, C, B, C for a trill. Yeah, side key. Trumpet player, I'd like all my brass players to have a range if you're teaching the very first C below the staff for trumpet from the very beginning, like in beginning band, I really like them at an A above the staff in tune, and they can hold each note for a whole note before they get to high school. And especially if you're middle school marching, if your kids can play Fs relatively well, you're pretty much opening up almost every single King Carl King march in the E category, easy, medium, easy, for you to do. So you don't have to just stick to the same, you know, oh, I got to do a march that only has a range of a ninth because that's all my kids can do. So yeah, range, expansion, intonation knowledge with tools and tricks, and scales, exercises, and etudes. Because if they can do all that, then learning music shouldn't be a problem. It'll just be a measure of how much time do they put in or effort and practice. And the hardest thing is making that fun. Kids hate doing scales, you know, they hate doing chorales. You know, I tried to do chorales in the beginning of the year with my 8th graders, and they thought it was, you know, like I was making them eat the worst vegetables ever. The 6th graders, they didn't know any different. So I made them do chorales from the beginning. Really easy stuff from like the Red Book, from Essential for Standards of Excellence, or Superior Bands in 16 Weeks. You know, there's some really easy 8-bar chorales. And if you record them the first time they play it, and then you record them after they really know how to tune and make them listen, it's cool. I mean, if you teach them to hear it, they'll start to go, okay, maybe these aren't the most fun thing in the world, but we got to do it. You know, it's going to make things easier in the long run. You're not tuning every single note one by one in every single piece. Yeah. So, and again, if they know those notes ahead of time, make them mark it. You know, my first rehearsal on Terracotta Warriors, we spent probably the whole first rehearsal just marking things. Just going, treble notes, alternate fingerings. When are you going to play? We had a part in Pioneer Songs where the trombones had to go F, D flat over and over again in ostinato. And of course, what do you think they wanted to do? 1-5, 1-5, yeah. 6-5, 6-5. So we made it work. You know, we used that time to go, what do we know? What do we not know? And your admin will love that if you use that time to kind of organize, what do I know? What do I not know? What do I need to know? You're kind of thinking more like an avid teacher, or you know, just it's good skills for the general ed population classes. Lots of stuff, but yeah, talk to your high school guys. If you're elementary, talk to your middle school guy. If you're middle school, you need to talk to both. That's the hard thing. You have to talk to elementary to know you're supporting them. You got to talk to high school to go, what do you want from my kids before they get to you? Otherwise, I don't want to say they can blame you, but yes, they can go, well, I'm not getting the kids I need, you know, you're not teaching them the way. Like, do everything you can, you know, make that a team and a family. I love the team and family I work with in Lake Elsinore, because it's just, we talk about our jobs, we talk about music. It's just, it's very friendly, it's polite, it's chummy, and that's what you want. You want an easy work environment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, let me use myself as an example, and I'm going to blame my middle school teacher. It's not her fault.
Wait, blame your feeder or the middle school teacher you had as a student?
No, my feeder.
Is she going to watch this?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Well, it was kind of a joke. It's more her school that is a problem. We have one middle school and one high school in our district.
That's how my old district was, real tiny.
All my kids come from the middle school.
Yeah.
And I think it has more to do with the way that school is set up and the way that kids are assigned to electives. But I get a lot of kids that don't know what they're doing. And so for me, it feels like I'm starting from scratch with even some of the advanced band kids, like reteaching them a lot of the things and like developing their ability to sight read and developing their ability to read scales and do all those other things. And it's like partially, it's like all sorts of things, you know, but part of it is just like when reality comes into contact with what we want to do, they just can't get around it.
that's the hardest thing, and every school's different. That's kind of, I keep saying that over and over again, but it's so true. Especially with scheduling, one school, it's super flexible, it's easy. They can put any kid in any class, they can move your band schedule around. Another school, it's different because maybe they have more offerings. It's a little bit more complicated. So it's so hard to be flexible, right. But you have to be. I think we would all love all of our, at least in middle school, separate all of our classes as woodwind class, brass class, woodwind class, brass class, and then your top group is an ensemble. So you're really getting into the nitty gritty, but that might not work because they need, honors math or intervention math, or, they have another elective and it conflicts, or he's got to roll with whatever. We're figuring out my schedule right now for next year with my kids. So that's conversations we're having about, where are we going to put students? Are we going to try to do woodwind brass for 6th grade? And what happens if that kid can't fit in that specific class for the instrument they want to play?
Right.
So, yeah, that's flexibility all the time. Welcome to band.
Yeah, I know. I mean, not to bring it to a bummer, but do you think that kind of class would be brass and woodwind might be necessary to keep class sizes small, given the future?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I think it's worth looking into, to keep classes small, maybe do it by instrument sections or block scheduling. My high school, we did block scheduling. My classes were 2 hours each. Wow. So Monday we went 1-3-5, Tuesday we went 2-4-6. So in that way, I could see that some combination or version of that working for, the minimizing classroom sizes and limiting exposure. I'm looking at trying to do woodwind brass right now, but even at that, for 6th grade, it puts almost 40 to 50 in a class.
Wow.
And I have a big room. I'm really fortunate. I love my classroom. But yeah, there's definitely something to think about, separating it that way. You could do grade level and then by instrumentation, see whatever works, for that. Maybe have a, class, I know the big concern right now is flute. Everyone's talking about, there's all these studies coming out about, breathing air and it going through your instrument, and what's the risk with that, and flute has the most because you're breathing straight forward, so a lot of that is directly from you. Do they need a different class? Do they need to be put somewhere specifically in the room to make that work? So I think it's worth looking into. I hope, talk to music teachers. I'm coming up with A, B, C, D, E, so I can just keep offering as many options as possible, and it's showing that I'm flexible. I'm willing to do what I have to do, number one, to keep my job. Number two, just to, make it work for everybody. So if I can, help with an idea, and maybe if it's not that idea, but it's a variation on that, you're doing your part. So I think definitely people should look into how they should restructure their classes, maybe to make it work easier for you musically, but also for spacing.
Okay. So now let's talk about some more fun things, and less about work. So what do you do outside of teaching, to keep yourself musically sharp, to express yourself artistically, to relax?
Okay, so the first 2 years, I'm going to tell you now, you're not going to relax. You're going to have no fun, but that's okay. I can say now that induction and bits is over, I have more time. I feel less stressed, because even though it's not that much work, it's still in the back of your head, oh, I have this meeting, I have this extra thing. So I'm probably, I don't know if it's the majority of band directors, but I think a lot of us, it's hard because our job is not just a job. It's not just a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out. You know, you're passionate about it. You want to live it, breathe it, eat it. So I'm guilty, like a lot of other band teachers, of letting band kind of consume, you know, my life and my time. But I enjoy doing it, so I don't mind it. And, you know, it's for me too, you know, a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, you're teaching your kids, but this is feeding you as well, musically or artistically. So outside of school, before all this was happening, you know, I try to play in community groups. We have a symphony orchestra local in the city I live in. There's some community bands around there. I was going to start doing one of the ones at the local community college because it's mostly teachers that play in it. Mm-hmm. So it's just socialize, talk to people that understand what you're going through, and it's fun. And then with everything going on right now, you know, that all shut down. Pretty much all I can do to sharpen myself musically is do smart music myself. You know, I have some instruments at home. I have a flute, clarinet, saxophone, a trombone, a trumpet, and then what I don't have I can borrow from my school once this is all done. But yeah, just play, make videos for the kids, keep my stuff up. Especially with middle school, percussion middle school band directors, I don't know if it's everywhere, but there's kind of this stigma against us, like, oh, well, you're a percussionist. You probably, either you're going to be a bad teacher, you can't play the instruments, you know, the band instruments, or you don't know a lot about the band instruments. So I tried really hard to learn them. Mm-hmm. But it was just fun. I enjoyed learning the instruments. It was super cool. I wish I had a bassoon at home. I want to practice that. I have a hard time figuring out where I'd put it when I'm not playing it. But yeah, so practice the instruments, because if you want the kids to do it, you should be able to do it. You know, and of course at the advanced levels, that's different, but especially beginning band. If you can do it, you will have an easier time explaining it.
Yeah.
And if a kid doesn't get it, you can put yourself easier in their shoes to go, you know, what am I going to do to better teach flute embouchure, which in my opinion is like the hardest thing to get started for beginning band. Once they get it, but it's not always intuitive.
Yeah.
If a kid's blown on a bottle and made that sound, just add 2 in front of it. Usually they can get it quick. But yeah, you have to be able to at least play all the instruments at a probably 8th grade level if you really want to do your program justice. But I'm sorry, I forget what the original question was. I started going off on
what do you do to, like, what are you doing to, like, stay sharp and kind of, like,
yeah, so
that isn't teaching?
Yeah, practicing the instruments on your own. Mm-hmm. You know, right now with COVID and everything being shut down, I find myself just trying to get out of the house. I'll go for a walk in my neighborhood, make sure I'm still social distancing, yeah, and mask, but you know, find music that inspires you, because it's pretty easy right now to become uninspired and depressed. And you know, try to keep that up, because the second we get any sense of normalcy or we see how we're going to start teaching again, I don't want us to slide backwards. I want to do everything I can to make it everything I can be. Because again, it's for your kids, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's also for you. It's feeding you musically. You know, we got into this for a reason. Yeah. You know, we enjoy making music. So, you know, finding any way to be inspired, Zooming with other band teachers, you know, for me, this helps. Just seeing another face and talking, and, you know, we're all going through the same thing. But definitely something I would tell myself when I first started now, if I could go back and tell myself when I first started, you have to make an effort to not let it consume all your time. You know, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think it's good and necessary, especially right now, is kind of illuminating that. Like, you gotta make sure you have hobbies outside of music. You know, you gotta have other things you like to do as well.
Right.
You know, that you can fill your day with, you can fill your time with, and kind of keep you balanced. You're not getting overloaded from anything you're doing.
All right, that's a good answer. Okay, let's briefly talk about Midwest.
Yay! God, I hope it happens this year.
Oh yeah, me too. I don't know what that would be like if there was
I
no
will I
Midwest.
will wear a plastic bubble. I do not care. I need to be there.
So you go to Midwest every year?
So I went this year.
Hmm.
I went in college. I think I took 1 year off. Yeah, I didn't go my very first year of teaching.
Okay.
I didn't go because I didn't want to take the time off because everyone talks about you should never take time off at the beginning of your career, but that's not always the case. You have sick days, you have personal
Yeah.
days. You're not going to be penalized for doing that. Now, if you're taking off all the time, that's another story. But yeah, I went this last year. I did my end of the year concert and then drove to LAX and got on a flight that night. It's great if you can go. You should go to your state level one too. So if you're in California, go to CASMEC. If you're in Southern California, go to SCSBOA. I'm sure they have something like that for Northern and Central California too. But yeah, it's nice to recharge, maybe cleanse your palate or motivate your palate.
Hmm.
You come back appreciative for the job you have, and you kind of feel excited to go, well, maybe I can do that, or I found a new trick for something, or a new piece you want to do, or it's just a nice vacation.
Yeah.
I enjoy the fact that we're all so busy, but at this thing, SCSBOA puts together the SoCal Hang, so we all get together, and it's like a little college reunion, and it's nice to be with your people, people that go through the same thing you're doing. So if you can go, hopefully it happens. You should go. You should try to be there the whole time. Go to as many events as possible. And if people invite you to go out or just talk, take the invitation. You never know. I had a really good conversation with some band teachers from Nevada, about what they were doing there. And, if you want to move out of state and take a job somewhere else, this is the way to meet people to help you do that.
Yeah. Nevada is really good at funding their schools too.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. They do a lot. So who
So
knows?
there's my school really wants us to have a mariachi program, so they sent us. There's a mariachi teaching thing that happens in
Ooh,
Vegas. Yeah.
do you have like the equipment to be
Not
able
yet.
to do that?
That's phase 2, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
first it's training me,
Yeah.
then it's paying for the instruments and the uniforms.
Yeah.
But they have a like robust like music programs there. Like
Oh yeah.
it's crazy. They have like multiple teachers for like different instruments.
Oh yeah, it's like
Wow.
Texas in that
Yeah.
aspect where maybe there's 2 or 3 band directors, and yeah, they direct the bands, but it's like you're the brass specialist, you're the woodwind specialist, you're the percussion specialist, and they have walk-on coaches that come in during the day that might even be funded by districts. I don't know what that'll look like now as a result of
Right.
all of this, but every state has its things it does really well, and yeah, as far as Nevada, they do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. It makes someone like me who's all by himself pretty envious.
Oh.
But there's positives to my thing, and
Yeah, definitely. Because my old district, my old job was the same as yours, one middle school, one high school, and it had its benefits, but I kind of felt that loneliness at times too.
Yeah.
So moving to I'm in a mid-sized district. It's not huge. We have about 23,000 kids in the whole district.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have, a few more music teachers there, and just people in general, to have, on your team.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about Midwest. All right. Here's the final question. Where, at the peak of your career, where do you see yourself?
Retired. No, kidding. It changes all the time. I used to be, at the peak of my career, I want to get it, the wish list. I want to get into Midwest Clinic. I want my group to perform. I want to do this. I want to do that. And most of it was related to, going places and performing in tours and going on these lavish trips and everything. I did that last year. We went on a trip to San Francisco, and I wanted to pull my hair out.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot of work, a lot of time fundraising. And it was a great experience, but there's other things I think I'm learning are more important. And there's nothing wrong with doing that stuff. I want to see my groups good enough to get into that kind of stuff. Maybe to perform at All-State for California. I think that would be an amazing experience to do, you know, higher level repertoire. 10 years from now, I have about 100, I have 105 in band right now, 6 through 8. I'd like to see that a lot bigger. I'd like to see my numbers closer to 200, you know, maybe even higher. We're grade 6 through 8 band. I'd like to see us playing grade 3 repertoire. I'd like to see more kids playing French horn and bassoon and oboe and really have a real middle school wind ensemble. You know, with that standard, I'd like to see us at least being invited to more, you know, opportunities for the kids, you know, whether we fundraise, pursue that endeavor or not, you know, be considered, be invited, because then it shows what we're doing is paying off. Yeah, I want to see my program at a point where musically nobody can go, oh, they're just a middle schooler. Oh yeah, they're okay. You know, I want to be one of those, like, wow, that's Terracotta Middle School. They sound you know, incredible. And then on the other side of things, you know, we're always fundraising. We're always, you know, doing that thing. I want to see my program at a point where, yeah, we're still fundraising. We're still doing. I want to see such a well-oiled machine that is just every year we know these are the fundraisers we're doing. This is what we expect to bring in. So we're saving for a rainy day, but we've also, you know, we've upgraded inventory of instruments. We're changing things out. And yeah, I just want to see the program more successful, probably on every front. Well, I would love to perform at Midwest, All-State. I want to see more of my kids do honor bands, because that's what changed my life and made me want to do this. But yeah, so I think a lot of us have the same goals.
Yeah.
I hope we get there. If not, I'm enjoying what we're doing right now. You know, I think we're doing great things right now. But yeah, hopefully someday. But yeah, trips aren't everything. They're nice, they're fun, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have the best music program, which I think you can easily mistake. Well, I'm getting invited to this thing. It's the best thing in the world. And it can be, but there's so much more than just that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It seems, I mean, all your other goals besides the trips things, they definitely seem pretty attainable. It's just my master teacher at the high school level when I was.
Who were you with again?
Jonathan Chang.
That's right.
At Glen A. Wilson High School.
Mm-hmm.
That's his fundraising. That guy is so organized. But he had fundraising pretty much down to like, this is what we do here, this is what we do here, and we do the same events, and it pays for exactly what we do every year. Exactly.
So you're not worrying about it. You're not having to seek out more things all the time.
Yeah.
You know, fundraising shouldn't occupy that much of your time. It should just be a well-oiled thing that your boosters or your ASB or whoever handles your fundraising, they can do. Because yes, we're overseeing it, we're participating, but our job is to teach music.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, Taylor. Do you have anything else you want to tell the World Wide Web?
I think all I would say right now, if you're thinking I want to be a music teacher, I wouldn't let this time scare you away from doing it. You know, it's cheesy. Everyone says we're in unprecedented times, but you know, this kind of thing happens. The economy goes bad, you know, COVID outbreaks happen. And then there's uncertainty in jobs, but I know there's uncertainty in everyone's jobs. Everyone goes through this kind of stuff. I would still pursue it. You know, don't let this scare you away from doing it. I don't think I don't think it's bad to say, maybe you have a backup plan, maybe be thinking in the back of your head, if I can't do what I want to do, what am I going to do until I get to do what I want to do? I can't imagine not teaching music. That's why I do it, because if I could imagine myself doing something else, I don't know if it's right to be doing, that thing, if it's not the one thing you're passionate about. But pursue it, give it everything you've got, network with teachers, while you're learning, while you're in college, meet as many people as you can to help you. And it really is, the best job in the world, to be a music teacher and see kids experience what you experienced, and hopefully make it even better for them than you had. So good luck. You have an amazing teacher. If you have Mr. Mogg as your teacher, if you're one of my kids, I'm sorry you had me. I'm kidding. But keep playing, keep practicing. And when it comes to the arts, the arts is what's getting us through right now. We're watching Netflix, we're listening to music. That's what's getting us through this time. So everyone, please remember that going forward, the arts is what helps us through troubling times. So when the arts hit troubling times, please help the arts.
Yeah, and we're definitely hitting some troubling times for arts coming up. It's an interesting time.
Yes, leave it at that. It's an interesting time.
But thank you, Taylor, for all the wise words and such great responses for everything and joining us today. That's it for this interview.
Thanks for having me.